Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcia Beauchamp, the Affiliate Director for the Islamic Networks Group. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this webinar for parents entitled Supporting Your Muslim Student. We're all thrilled to have 100 people registered for this webinar. In light of the political climate in the United States today, the increase in the bullying of Muslim students and those presumed to be Muslim, as well as the concerns and confusion about how to address teaching about Islam in the curriculum, which includes instances of misinformation and bias in some classrooms, we felt it crucial and of urgent importance to hold this webinar. We'll begin the webinar by addressing bullying specifically, sharing strategies for preventing it and addressing it when it happens. We will then move on to the issue of how Islam is treated in the curriculum, and we'll provide some excellent resources that you can share with your children's teachers and school administrators. You might want to mention also to them that we will be holding a similar webinar on Wednesday evening, January 27th, just for educators. You can find more information about this on our website, for which we'll provide the address during this webinar. We begin today with you, parents, because you have special parental rights to direct the upbringing of your children that have been recognized by the courts across the United States. These rights include sharing your concerns about incidents that occur during the school day that involve your child. We hope that the resources we share in today's webinar will leave you feeling empowered to partner with your child's educators to make our schools better for every student. Finally, we would like to address your questions at the end of the presentations today. If questions come up while you're listening to the presentations, please enter the questions into the chat box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Similar questions will be grouped together, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can in the time we have allotted. Now I'd like to introduce you to our very special guest speakers for this webinar. We are honored to have each of them with us today. They represent the most trusted organizations and institutions in education and civil liberties in the United States. It is my pleasure to introduce them in the order in which they will appear. Maha Elgenaidi is the founder and CEO of the Islamic Networks Group, or ING. ING's mission is to counter prejudice and discrimination against American Muslims by teaching about their traditions and contributions in the context of America's history and cultural diversity, while building relations between American Muslims and other groups. Roula Allouch is the board chair of the Council on American-Islamic Relations National, or CARE. CARE's mission is to enhance understanding of Islam, encourage dialogue, protect civil liberties, empower American Muslims, and build coalitions that promote justice and mutual understanding. Sandy Goldberg is the Education Director of WNET, the PBS affiliate in New York City. They reach 1.5 million educators across the country through their PBS Learning Media educational resources. Daniel Tutt is Director of Programs for the Unity Productions Foundation, or UPF. The mission of Unity Productions Foundation is to create peace through the media. UPF also implements long-term educational campaigns aimed at increasing understanding among people of different faiths and cultures, especially among Muslims and other faiths. Maureen Costello is the Director of Teaching Tolerance, a project of the Southern Poverty Law Center. Teaching Tolerance project combats prejudice among our nation's youth while promoting equality, inclusiveness, and equitable learning environments in the classroom. They produce an array of anti-bias resources that they distribute free of charge to educators across the country: award-winning classroom documentaries, lesson plans and curricula, teaching tolerance, and much more. Mark Fowler is Deputy Executive Director of Tanenbaum. Tanenbaum is a secular, non-sectarian nonprofit that promotes mutual respect with practical programs that bridge religious differences and combat prejudice in schools, workplaces, healthcare settings, and areas of armed conflict. Ameena Jandali is the Content Director for the Islamic Networks Group, about which you've already heard. And Dr. Kenneth Bedell is Senior Advisor to the Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships Initiative of the U.S. Department of Education. President Obama said that the purpose of the White House Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships is to promote the notion that instead of driving us apart, our varied beliefs can bring us together to feed the hungry and comfort the afflicted, to make peace where there is strife and rebuild what has broken, and to lift up those who have fallen on hard times.
Thank you, Marcia, and good morning, everybody. Excited to participate in this really important webinar on such an important topic, and thank you to ING and also all the other presenters that are participating today. I'm excited to hear everyone else's presentation and honored to be asked to participate in this important discussion. I wanted to begin by kind of setting up some background information on what our students and what our youth have been dealing with lately. We all know that there's been an increase in Islamophobia, and our students and youth appear to be some of the most vulnerable in our population, hearing all kinds of things, not just in the media and in other locations, but unfortunately at times at school and from teachers and fellow students. So this is an important topic, and I'm glad to see so many parents participating as well. It's very important to note that the U.S. Department of Education has responded to some of the increase in Islamophobia and some of this rhetoric and attacks that have been happening against our youth and our students. And I want to give specific credit to Sister Maha at ING, but all those who worked with the Department of Education as well to get this letter put together. The letter came out a few weeks ago, and it essentially called on schools to prevent anti-Muslim discrimination. Schools are being encouraged to watch for harassment and discrimination based on national origin, race, or religion. The department stated that specifically the letter was coming due to some of the anti-Muslim and anti-refugee sentiments that have been growing in the United States. We know from some recent reports that 1 in 5 Muslim students report being target of discrimination by a teacher, administrator, school staff member, or other individual at school. So it's important that we address these things because we want to make sure that our youth are empowered and don't feel like they're marginalized or internalized negative stereotypes or misconceptions that are impacting the Muslim community these days. So it's important, I think, to begin the discussion by talking about the constitutional rights that people have. There are 2 essential parts to the freedom of religion guarantees within the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. And I wanted to go over those. So first, everyone has the right to the free exercise of religion, and that is the right to practice your own religion or no religion at all without interference from the government. And then secondly, the government may not establish religion. So that is, the government may not endorse, sponsor, or require participation in any particular religion or religious activity. And that's particularly important for public schools and in this discussion. So public schools must maintain their religious neutrality so that all students of any religion or no religion at all can enjoy the freedom of belief as they're part of their school activities. And schools cannot promote any one religion over another. So school officials may not sponsor, facilitate, promote, or participate in any particular religious activities. Students of any faith or no faith have the right to be at school and to not be impacted by, not have their education, rather be impacted by their religious beliefs. So then when we're talking about students themselves and the rights that they have at school, in the United States, all young people have the right to a free public education. Each student must have equal access to the opportunities that his or her school provides. Reasonable restrictions may be based on access to certain classes or activities, but those cannot be put in place based upon background, again, race, religion, national origin, ethnicity, etc. So students have the right to equal access regardless of those being classified in any one of those categories potentially. And one of the issues that comes up for our students often is a question of whether they may participate in faith-based student groups. And so wanted to note that student groups are permitted, but there are a certain number of restrictions on them. So first of all, student groups are permitted during non-class hours. So if other student groups are all to meet at a particular time, then a faith-based student group may meet as well. But according to the Federal Equal Access Act of 1984, that's the act that provides that the meetings be student-initiated. School staff may not participate in or sponsor religious clubs. Staff may be present to ensure order and to ensure safety for students, but these meetings, again, they have to take place outside of school hours, and they have to be something that is not school-initiated or school-endorsed. And then really one of the biggest issues that impacts the rights of students, particularly within the Muslim community, are the ability or questions about their ability to dress in a particular way within their religious beliefs and their understandings of their religious belief, or participate in prayer and take time off for holidays. So the First Amendment protects students' rights to free exercise of religion, as we've discussed. The students can't be prevented from attending public school or excluded from a student group or denied access to school property because of their religion. And specifically, students have the right to wear symbols of their religious belief, and they cannot be sent home for doing so. The First Amendment protects the rights as well as students who wish to pray individually or in groups at school or to discuss their religious views with their peers. No one can compel students to participate in any religious discussions. And again, the activities can't disrupt normal school activities. So oftentimes for Muslim students, an issue comes down to prayer time, for example, and whether if they're participating in a particular prayer, if that's taking time from school activity. And so oftentimes I think it's best for students and their parents to work with school officials, perhaps the teacher or maybe an administrator at the school, to find the best times, for example, for a student to pray, but with the understanding that the students have the right, again, to pray. It's just a matter of doing so in a way that's consistent with not disrupting normal school activities. And we've seen an increase now in a few school districts across the country that are recognizing Muslim holidays, but also just holidays of other religious groups. This is something that's becoming, hopefully, I would like to use the word trend. I don't think we're quite there yet. But in any event, students have the right to take their holiday off, and there just needs to be a letter to the school provided explaining that they're taking the day off for a religious holiday, and as such, it should be an excused absence. And really, students at school have the right to be protected from any type of harm, whether it be physical, whether it be emotional issues, whether it be attacks that are being made against them due to their background, whether it be their faith, their ethnicity, their national origin, whatever the case may be, students should be protected from those things. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is an increase in bullying, and we're seeing that students are unfortunately being subjected to some issues that are related to bullying. So on the next slide, you'll see the definition that's the most generally accepted definition of bullying. Bullying is unwanted aggressive behavior among school-age children that involves a real or perceived power imbalance. The behavior is repeated or has the potential to be repeated over time. This is a definition that has been adopted by the American Bar Association as well as many other organizations. It's kind of the generally accepted definition of bullying. And one of the most important parts of it, I think, is the repetition portion of the definition. So it's important from a bullying perspective that parents understand that it doesn't just have to be that activities have occurred over a period of time or students have been subjected to repeated bullying, but that there be the potential for an action or a slur or some kind of comment to be repeated over time. And I'd also like to make sure people are aware of the fact that cyberbullying can be a concern. In these days, with increased social media and different social media sites that students use, sometimes bullying that takes place on the schoolyard or in school property carries over into cyberspace and kind of follows them home. So parents should be aware of that as well. I wanted to make sure that we pointed out to everybody that the need to make sure that there's a safe space for children to report bullying. I think our parents and teachers, administrators, just community members, we all need to support our youth and understand that it can be a very difficult thing to report bullying if they're experiencing it. Unfortunately, this is the type of situation that can lead youth to feeling very vulnerable, potentially even considering physically harming themselves. So we want to make sure that we create a safe space for them to report bullying at all times. And then moving on to the next slide. It's important to make sure our youth know that they shouldn't be retaliating or responding to bullying. They should be contacting adults, contacting administrators, teachers using the resources that are available to address bullying rather than, for lack of a better term, taking things into their own hands, because we want to make sure, first, that the safety of all students is ensured, and then secondly, that the bullied child doesn't then become somebody who is seen as an aggressor or has some repercussions against him or her. And so in dealing with responding to bullying, it's important that people maintain any records that are in place, so parents and teachers, parents and students rather, can work together to make sure that documentation is in place so that students can preserve any evidence that could be useful in terms of reporting bullying to schools. And then moving on to the next slide, when we're talking about reporting bullying, again, it's just important to encourage children to report the bullying to a trusted adult, whether it be a parent. Sometimes students are comfortable talking to an older sibling or an older member of the community, but also teachers and staff. The teachers and administrative staff at a school do have a legal duty to protect students. If teachers don't respond, then parents should step in and talk to administrators at the school, and if for some reason the teachers and the administrators at the school aren't responsive, then there should be discussion to the school board about the issues that your child is experiencing. And some of the things that can come as a result of reporting bullying are reviewing schools' bullying policies. Each school at this point should have a policy. If they don't, then that's something that the parent could work with the school and the administration and the school board on making sure that they are. There are also many bullying awareness programs that are available for a lot of times as volunteer opportunities, so that the schools can have outside groups come in and give awareness programs to students on bullying so that they can better understand what's going on. But again, I think it's just very important that we make sure to protect our youth and allow them the tools that they need to report on bullying. And now I'm going to turn the discussion over to Maha, who's going to talk about next steps.
Great. Thank you so much, Roula, for your presentation and for the wonderful work that CARE is doing in this area and other areas as well. We're very grateful for all you do and for joining us today. I'm now going to talk about other sources of harassment, which unfortunately sometimes comes from teachers and other school staff, as Roula mentioned. According to surveys and polling, in some cases up to 40% of the problems that Muslim students are facing in schools come from educators. The average that Roula mentioned was 20%, but in some school districts, we've seen it as high as 40%. Some examples include making fun of or punishing students for wearing hijab or other religious clothing like a skull cap that's sometimes worn by boys, or telling them, for example, that it's not allowed to do so. Making fun of a student's name in roll call, or ridiculing a person's country of origin, or criticizing their religion by, say, praising one religion over another, and sometimes suggesting in subtle ways or overt ways that a student should consider converting to another religion, which is extremely problematic, even if an educator is saying it with the intention of comforting a child by giving them other options to say Islam. Next slide. Teachers may also be biased or misinformed about what it is they're teaching, and they often teach inaccurate information about Islam or Muslims. And this is probably one of the most challenging situations for Muslim students because they tend to be afraid or shy to correct a teacher, but also feeling very humiliated by what is being taught. In this situation, students have a right to bring these issues to the attention of the teacher directly or teacher's supervisor. And in this webinar, the parents will be provided with teaching resources provided by several organizations participating with us today that they can suggest to the teacher for teaching about Islam and Muslims in the context of world history and social studies, and is really one of the primary purposes of this webinar. Next slide. One of the most important rights of parents is their children's safety in school, which includes protection from all physical or emotional harm, as well as having a safe learning environment, which we know has a direct impact on student performance. Parents, of course, also have a vested interest in their children's rights, previously mentioned, by Roula relating to religious practice and protection of the religious identity that shouldn't be threatened in any way and should be accommodated within reason. For religious practice, for example, by providing a private, clean location for prayer or the right to start a Muslim club, etc. And finally, under the 14th Amendment, students and parents have the right of equal protection under the law. In other words, that the school will respond appropriately to harassment or bullying and not be more tolerant of bullying of Muslim students, for example, while not being tolerant of bullying or harassment of other students. Schools must treat everyone equally. For more information on bullying response and reporting, we want you to contact CARE regional offices at this web address. And for more information on bullying prevention through teacher and student education and interreligious engagement, feel free to contact ING regional offices that are found at this web address. And now I'm going to turn it over to providers of educational resources for teachers by ING, PBS, Unity Productions, Teaching Tolerance, Tanenbaum, and finally the U.S. Department of Education. We're very grateful to all of them for joining us today. Ameena?
Everybody, and thanks again for joining us this Saturday morning. So I'm going to be the first of a group of presenters talking about various educational resources for teachers that you can make your children's teachers aware of and bring to their attention. So ING has a number of resources. If you go to the next slide, one of them is a training that we provide to educators, which would include both teachers and staff members who work in the school, about how to interact with Muslim students. And so one of the primary focuses of this training is developing cultural competency skills, which would include providing a basic overview about what the religion teaches and then going into more specific detail about actual practices that will impact the student at school. So obviously we talk about dress, we talk about diet, we talk about participating in sports or PE, holidays, prayers, some of the things that were previously mentioned, and the rights of students within what is not interfering with the school day or interfering with their studies, the right of that student to practice their religious either worship or beliefs or practices. So that's one aspect of the training. The second aspect is to really draw attention to the prevalent problem that we've seen is skyrocketing now in recent months of harassment and bullying, whether it's verbal, whether it's cyber, whether it's actual physical, and obviously emphasizing the importance of teachers stepping in and preventing this bullying from happening, because as you probably well know, students are often shy to bring this up even with their own parents, let alone with another teacher. And so it's important for teachers to be aware that this is happening and to intervene, and also to put into place actual policies, which every school actually has these policies, but often teachers and other staff members are not aware of these anti-bullying policies. And then we end with a listing of educational resources for teachers who are teaching about Islam as part of their social studies or world history curriculum. And these include our own resources here at ING, as well as many of the resources that are going to be discussed today. So some of the resources that ING provides include the following. You can go to the next slide. In the San Francisco Bay Area, as well as across the country where we have ING affiliates, we provide face-to-face presentations that supplement the study of Islam in the context of social studies and world history in both middle and high schools. And what we do is we train and certify Muslim speakers to go in and present on the following topics. Our most common and most requested presentation is Getting to Know American Muslims and Their Faith, which is a basic overview about Islam and Muslims that for high schoolers also goes into common stereotypes around extremism and women in Islam, as well as commonalities with other faith. And so that is our most commonly requested presentation. We also provide a presentation about a history of Muslims in America that begins even before Columbus, but goes through a history of early Muslims who came here as slaves and then as immigrants, and then bringing us up to the present time. We also present about Muslim contributions to civilization, mainly during the Golden Age of Islam, and these presentations range from the typical algebra, chemistry, architecture, to more household items such as sugar, coffee, tea. And then we also, mainly in high school, present about Muslim women beyond the stereotypes, which addresses one of the most common stereotypes about Muslims, that women are oppressed. And so here we highlight prominent women in the world, heads of state, educators, and we do this both globally as well as here in the United States, and we also address many of the common stereotypes. So that is what we do face-to-face, where we have ING affiliated bureaus. In the San Francisco Bay Area, and this is going to be a program that's expanding, we also have what is called the Interfaith Speakers Bureau, or the IFSB, that also supplements the study of world religions in mainly social studies and history in high schools. And here we bring together panels of either members of the 5 major world faiths, or panels of the 3 Abrahamic faiths, or panels of Jewish and Muslim representatives talking about topics of importance such as shared values among the faiths, living the faith, religion and extremism, religion and pluralism, and then specifically for our Jewish Muslim panels, we talk about common challenges living as minorities in majority non-Jewish or non-Muslim countries. And so these are very powerful. They're also a way where some teachers do not feel very comfortable inviting only a Muslim speaker, and so having a variety of faiths is a great way to introduce all the faiths. And it's very important, we believe, that students become religiously literate about their faiths and about other faiths. So we're not here just to focus on one faith, but really to shine a light on all faiths, because you can't really understand history without understanding religion. Next slide. So we also feature our main presentations online as curriculum. And this is for teachers who live in an area where there are no affiliated bureaus, where there may be very few Muslims, and yet they are teaching about this topic. And so what we've done is we've taken each of these major presentations that I just mentioned, Getting to Know American Muslims and Their Faith, Women in Islam, A History of Muslims in the United States, and Muslim Contributions, as well as 2 of our multi-faith presentations, and we've created curriculum around it that offers the PowerPoint presentation with accompanying scripts, as well as discussion questions, activities for students, and dozens of films and links to films that are related to the topics we're discussing. So this is a very rich resource that is offered free of charge to teachers. They just need to register, and so you can let your teachers know about this, and they are able to access this free of charge. We also offer online to the general public, this is not only for educators, so all of you can access this as well, answers to frequently asked questions about Islam and Muslims. And these are 3 different categories. The first one are general questions about Islam and Muslims, ranging from the most basic, who is Allah, how do Muslims pray, and to more difficult questions around women, questions around extremism, around democracy, around modernity. And then we also have a set of questions around Sharia. What is Sharia? How is it implemented in the United States? And related questions there. And then recently we added a section about ISIS, clarifying that so many of their actions actually directly contradict Islamic teachings. And so these are available for the general public to access and to learn from. Next slide, please. So we have actually, for the last few years, conducted surveys in classrooms where ING speakers present about Islam and Muslims, as well as where interfaith panels present. And we've seen a very marked rise in the responses. So for instance, the number of people who said that they had a good understanding or a good knowledge of Islam rose dramatically after a presentation. So they will take the survey before the presentation and then the same survey after, and it shows that they the level of understanding of Islam that they have advanced dramatically. And we have questions about a number of issues: women, terrorism, are Muslim Americans foreign, etc., and all of them show a dramatic increase. So we are documenting the impact of these presentations, and we know that face-to-face presentations are one of the most effective ways to challenge stereotypes. Next slide, please. So if you are interested in accessing any of these resources, if you live in an area where there is an ING affiliate, or if you don't, we are now conducting both Islamic Speakers Bureau presentations and interfaith panels online via webinar. So if one of your teachers is interested, you can pass on the information. They can contact our scheduler, henry@ing.org, or call the ING office at the number that you see above on your screen. So that's information you can pass on to the teacher. For the online curriculum, this is the URL. You can go also to our website, and at the top there's a bar that says curriculum, and you go to the school section, and that will give you all of our curriculum. And then we also have a URL for FAQs that can also be accessed via the bar at the top that just says answers to frequently asked questions. So these are ways that you can use our website to access all of our resources. Next slide. So now we're going to turn it over to UPF and the representative from UPF. Thank you very much.
Well, it's an honor to be here, and happy Saturday morning to everyone out there. We are a educational nonprofit and documentary filmmaking group based in Washington, D.C. called Unity Productions Foundation. And for the past almost 15 years, we have been producing films that seek to highlight stories about Muslims in the contemporary and in the historical settings. Our first film was on the Prophet Muhammad, called Muhammad, Legacy of a Prophet, which is probably the most widely viewed documentary on Muhammad, used in thousands of classrooms. We've gone on to make films about a range of topics, from the role of Islam in the transatlantic slave trade to the, oh, thank you for switching the slide, that is called Prince Among Slaves. We've also made a 2-hour film on Al-Andalus, which looks at the relationship between Jews, Muslims, and Christians in the Islamic Spain Empire. All of these films air on PBS, usually multiple times. They usually have national broadcasts. And we work with some of the leading curriculum developers at universities such as Harvard and Georgetown to create lesson plans, discussion guides, interactive websites. And I'm going to share 2 of them with you. I don't want to over-inundate everybody today, because we have 2 very new resources that I want to share and go into a little bit of detail about what they offer. For parents, one thing I would recommend, you know, we have, if you could go back a slide actually. Thank you. We've done a representative sample of world history educators at the high school level in the United States, and these are the results that you can see here. I'll point out that there is a overwhelming percentage of educators who feel that they do not have adequate resources. A lot of this is, I think, funding related. And of course, a lot of it is also related to the fact that there really isn't that many good quality resources about Islamic culture and so on. So we're trying to sort of fill that gap. If you could go to the next slide, please. Our latest film, the last one that we had air on public television, tells the story of an incredible true story of a Muslim woman who fought the Nazis in occupied France during the Second World War. Her name is Noor Inayat Khan. Her father was a famous Sufi master, and she herself was posthumously awarded valiantly by the French and the British governments for her role as a spy against the Nazis, and she was executed at Dachau concentration camp. What we've done is we've hired Susan Douglas and Joan Brodsky-Schur, two very nationally recognized curriculum educators, and we've created a series of very dynamic lesson plans that educators can use. We've already distributed the film to 500 classrooms, and we plan to do an additional 500 in 2016. It's a wonderful film for history, for World War II, but also to look at contemporary issues around the role of women in Islam. And it's also a stereotype-breaking film because it is showing a part of history that we don't normally associate with Muslims, and let alone with Muslim women. So if you could go to the next slide, please. We've recently, with the passing of legislation in New York that now recognize both of the Eid holidays, we distributed this film, which is an 11-minute film called Nadia's Ramadan, into somewhere between 600 to 1,000 classrooms throughout the state of New York. This is eligible for elementary, middle, and even early high school. It's really nice because it's taking the experience of Nadia, a Muslim woman based in Virginia, a young girl, and taking the viewer through what a day in the life of a young, I think she was 11 years old or something like that, what it's like to fast for Ramadan. And they go to the mosque, and they, you know, you get a kind of window into a day in the life of what it's like, and it happens to be on Eid al-Adha. So all of these films are available. If you could go back to the first slide, if you don't mind. One more back, right there, at upf.tv/teachers. And you can see that those two films are our latest ones that we have just rolled out. They're very relevant right now. But we also have extensive lesson plans on the Prince Among Slaves program, which is wonderful for Black History Month, which is coming up in February. We've distributed that to hundreds of classrooms for Black History Month. This is a film that is very similar to Roots by Alex Haley. It won Best Documentary at the American Black Film Festival. And we got a grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities to create a sort of major website for college as well as high school educators. All of these films are free of charge. The lesson plans are free of charge, thanks to donors of family foundations and others. So I just really encourage you all to use them. This is a plug-and-play model. We are evaluating them. We have taken one representative sample and hired a professional evaluator, and found out that indeed knowledge, behavior, and actions do change, although we haven't been able to measure action changes, which is the longitudinal challenge of evaluations. That's kind of the perennial challenge. But definitely knowledge and behavior has the potential to change in major ways. So these are great resources for all of you, and I hope that you use them. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, so much. Fabulous resources, and we're very happy to hear about them. We'd like to bring in Sandy Goldberg right now from WNET, the PBS station in New York. Welcome, Sandy.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. So good morning, everybody. So I would like to tell you about a collection of resources that are available through PBS Learning Media. PBS Learning Media is a free resource for teachers. It's used by almost 1 million teachers across the country, and there are about 100,000 resources there, and quite a solid collection of high-quality resources on Islam and Muslim cultures that are available, as I said, free of charge. So if you could just advance to the next slide, please. Okay, great. So this is the home page. I'm taking you through a website just through screenshots. so it's not live here. This is the home page of PBS Learning Media. What I didn't include on here is the URL, so I'm just going to give that to you right now. So if you want to write it down, it's www.pbslearningmedia.org. So what I want to show you is the first collection of resources is something that's part of a larger collection called Access World Religions. And in the search box at the top of the screen, if you type Access World Religions with quotes around it, you will very easily get to the collection. So can I ask you to go to the next slide, please? Okay, so this is the results. And because the quotes are around there, there's only one result there. But you can see on the left, you can you can narrow your search by resource type. So if you find that you have more than one resource, if you just click collection, you'll go directly to it. So let's go on to the next. These are a collection, next slide please. This is a collection of media-rich resources. So that means they are resources that have a piece of media or video. Usually the video is about 3 to 5 minutes long, so it's not going to take an entire class time to show, but it's just enough that enough of media to focus on a particular concept. So as you can see, the Access World Religions collection has a lot of different religions and topics under it. So if you click on Islam, you will see about 30 different resources. It's a combination of video-based resources and full lesson plans. There are 19 videos and 10 lesson plans. May I see the next slide, please? So I want to highlight just a couple of the more popular resources that are here. On the left side of the screen, you can see the screenshot of a lesson plan on the 5 pillars of Islam. I don't know how closely you can see, but this has been accessed by over 50,000 users across the country. It's very popular. One of the resources in the lesson plan is a video on Muslim prayer. That's also another one of the very popular resources. I think the slides are a little off. There are arrows here that are supposed to be highlighting the support material. So for every video that's there, there is a collection of support materials. In this case, there is a background essay and some discussion questions. So they're designed, it's really up to the teacher how much direction they would like. The lesson plan can take you step by step through through a series of resources, whereas just the resource itself, it's up to the teacher how she would like to use it. Next slide, please. Thank you. So if we do a broader search of just Islam on PBS Learning Media, we get more than 600 different results. I mentioned earlier you can filter your results. So if you look over on the left-hand side, you can see that you can search by, you can narrow it down by video or image or website. So here you can see there are some lesson plans and there's some websites and some images. There's a very large collection of images also. May I have the next slide, please? So one of the resources, this is not one of the films that Daniel talked about, but there was a very popular film on public television called Islam, Empire of Faith, and there is a very robust website associated with that film that you can access through PBS Learning Media. So if you click on the resource, it will launch the website, which is what you see on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. This is a great website it's great for teachers, as some of the speakers spoke earlier about teachers just not understanding enough about Islam and the Muslim faith. And they can get a lot of that information through this website, or it's something for older students that teachers may want to assign and use as a class. Next slide, please. I'm just picking out a few of the resources that are available. This is obviously not all of them. Some people may be familiar with a very popular YouTube channel called Crash Course World History. There are a few of these Crash Course videos that are available on PBS Learning Media, and I'm highlighting them here. There is one on Islam, there's one on Islam and politics, and another on Mansa Musa and Islam in Africa. These are about 10 minutes long. I know that a lot of teachers like to use them to get some background information on the topic before they teach, and sometimes they're used by students to prepare for exams. Next slide, please. So the last resource that I wanted to highlight for you is part of a larger collection on PBS Learning Media that's called All About the Holidays. And this one is on Eid, and it's specifically targeted at younger children, grades K through 4. The video is less than 5 minutes long, and it's pretty comprehensive. So that's it. That's just a small taste of many, many resources that are available for teachers on PBS Learning Media. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandy. Those are fabulous, and we look forward to hopefully people passing these on to teachers all around the country. Thanks again. Next, Fowler from Tanenbaum now. Thank you.
I'm here. Can you all hear me?
We can, Mark. Thank you very much. Go right ahead. We'll ask Maureen to come back and do her presentation when you're finished. Thank you.
Okay, great. We can go to the first slide then. Okay, I see. And there, good morning, good afternoon to where everyone is. It really is our pleasure to be with everyone today and to be with all of these colleagues who are doing such amazing work in the world of education, certainly around issues around Islam and concerns for students and parents, but for all of the work that's being done. We're very grateful to be in this company of people. I'm sorry, I see a note here. I'm going to ignore that. Do I have control of the slides?
No, you don't, Mark. You just need to ask Sean to advance them. Thanks.
Okay, as you have done. Thanks so much, Sean. Very briefly, Tanenbaum is a secular non-sectarian not-for-profit, as was mentioned earlier. And in particular, in the world of education, our focus is on working with teachers so that they become comfortable and competent with addressing religion, religious identity, and religious diversity in their classrooms from two perspectives. One is that teachers struggle many times with trying to figure out, with an already packed agenda, how to appropriately include religion and religious identity into their lessons, and also when do they introduce that information. So we work with teachers to provide guidance and training around that, but also we do work around creating an inclusive learning environment such that young people are trained in practices around respect so that young people are going to disagree, but the ways in which we disagree, the ways in which we reason together become very important. So that's the focus of our work. If we go to the next slide, in the thinking about what you might need as parents, given the situation that we're experiencing today in the United States, or currently, I should say, there were a few things that we thought were important to share with you. And links to all of this information will be on slides that come after this, but let's just start here. So one of the things in terms of facts versus fiction is that misinformation abounds around Islam, around Muslims, not just in the United States, but globally. And so one of the resources that teachers need is vetted factual information on a variety of topics. So some of the things that we have available on our website that are a part now of a project that we have on combating violent extremism are fact sheets on topics like 9/11, on world religions, looking at the golden rule across traditions. And we're releasing that information on the 15th of every month. So you can direct teachers to that kind of information that they can use to challenge students' perceptions as well as colleagues' perceptions and misinformation and stereotypes about Muslims and Islam. The other thing, too, that we think is very important, and it has been said, is setting the context. So teachers are often concerned, and I should say that I was a public high school teacher for 11 years in New York City, and we never had any training at that time on cultural competence or including religion and other identifiers for that matter, into our curriculum and our core content. Standards do exist. The National Council for the Social Studies has the 10 themes of social studies, which actually very clearly address the presence, the exploration, the need for young people to be exposed to a variety of religious traditions as a way for them to be competent in the ways in which humanity and society have evolved over time, both in the United States and globally. In addition, you can look at or direct teachers to state departments of education, because in the State Department education regs, there are often guidelines around exploring, talking about, teaching about religion as a part and a necessary part of a well-learned child. So this is just background information to have at your fingertips when engaging either individual teachers or administrators at schools or even within districts about why it's important to talk about religion. When we look at the idea of why teach about religion, in addition to it being something that is captured in rules and regulations, educators are often concerned about teaching about religion, and sometimes they're concerned for legitimate reasons. There was one teacher who took an intensive educator course with us who was misunderstood by the parents of a child she was in a question about regarding religion, and she was sanctioned. And at one point it looked like her career might have been over, and it really was a misunderstanding. So there are a number of instances where teachers are concerned about backlash from parents or from administrators or even from colleagues. The other side of that, though, is that for concerned teachers and administrators, they're very slow to want to offend anyone. They acknowledge that they have a lack of knowledge around these topics or skills for addressing the topic if it comes up in the classroom. We have a great deal of information of curricula that we've designed that extend from elementary through high school that step-by-step provide direction for teachers to address religion. One that deals with the World Olympics, one that deals with religions in my neighborhood for elementary school students, and another that is a conflict resolution-based curriculum for high school students. In addition, we've been very fortunate, and I'm sure Maureen will talk about this as well, to partner with Teaching Tolerance and create a webinar series, Religious Diversity in the Classroom. It's a 5-session webinar series that is available on both of our websites. It is free, and we cover everything from addressing the First Amendment and issues around, or legal issues around teaching around religion, information about how to create and promote a learning environment that's inclusive, and then recommendations for elementary school teachers, middle school teachers, and high school teachers, particularly around addressing religion and incorporating religion into core content. Also on Tanenbaum's website, and you'll have these links, are extensive reading lists for children in elementary and middle school, as well as reference books for educators. So, you know, this is a matter of education on certainly one level that we think is very important. Most recently, in December, there were 2 articles in the New York Times that encouraged, one that was a profile of Muslim students who have been growing up in, if you will, the wake of 9/11 and what the learning experience has been for them. There's a very provocative review of the ways in which Muslim students are experiencing, in some instances, bias, misunderstanding, etc. So that's something that you may want to share with educators. In addition, there was more recently an article that was profiling how Muslim parents are talking to their children about hatred and extremism and the ways in which people are reacting to them. And there also is still a call from the New York Times for people to share more about their experiences. I think it's really important that we amplify a variety of voices, because what happens so often with the media is that small sound bites will be heard, but we don't hear from a variety of voices. So if that's something that you're comfortable with, I would encourage you to do so. Making this relative, I think it's important to note that in the history of the United States, certainly as within other countries, different religious groups have experienced oppression or opposition. So there is a fact sheet that we created that looks very specifically, historically in the United States, to the opposition to both places of worship and religious practices, and goes very deeply into the experiences of Jews, Catholics, Quakers, Hindus, Wiccans, Amish, and Sikh, as well as Muslim people, have all faced oppression or opposition in some way. And I think it's important to note that we've got to look at the core root of what allows for these kinds of situations to come up, not just the individual experience of a particular group. So we hope that that will be useful to teachers. And then finally, we have Fortify, and we're talking very specifically about you as parents, that it's hard enough raising children, but then to have this added pressure that a unique and sometimes a physically representative aspect of identity is challenged, or that there's a concern, a very real, strong concern that you have for the safety of your children and yourselves. A book that we are familiar with, and a writer that is a friend of the organization, Rania Edelby, wrote a book, Burker's Baseball and Apple Pie, where she talks about very poignantly her experience as a Muslim mother raising children and what her concerns are, but also where she was able to see some help and support. So that information is available, and we encourage you, like webinars like these, to reach out to members of your community, and also to the interfaith community if there happens to be one in the place where you live, because you are not alone in this, and also this is not a marathon. Or rather, this is a marathon, not a sprint. We're not going to get to interfaith and interfaith understanding tomorrow. So we are here to work with you and support you in any ways that we can. And thank you so much for the time.
Thank you so much, Mark. That was very informative and extremely helpful. We really appreciate you being with us. Now we'd like to hear from Maureen. I think she's back online with her phone. We'll go back to the teaching tolerance resources. Thanks so much, Maureen.
I sure hope so. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Great. Thank you.
Oh, good. Great. Thank you. Well, I'd just like to first talk a little bit about teaching tolerance because, thank you. Please note that website down below. This may be the most important thing I have to share with parents is our website. Teaching tolerance was established 25 years ago specifically to teach children and as a way to counter hate. And we're part of the Southern Poverty Law Center, so we're very familiar with hate in its manifest forms, based on race, based on religion, based on ethnicity, based on sexual orientation, and other ways as well. So what we're really experts in is prejudice reduction. Can I have the next slide, please? Our mission, essentially, next slide. Great. The mission of teaching tolerance is to promote an appreciation for diversity in schools by reducing prejudice, improving intergroup relations, and supporting equity for our nation's children. We work directly with teachers by providing them with resources. Over 450,000 teachers receive our magazine 3 times a year. We have about 350,000 teachers who visit our website every month. So teaching tolerance is a well-known and trusted entity among teachers, and I think that's important to know. We really try to work with teachers not so much to provide content, although they certainly need to have good, solid information about Islam and about Muslims in America, and I'm so happy to see that there are, go back, Sean, I'm so happy to see that there are great resources out there. What we're expert at, however, is prejudice reduction. And we're particularly concerned about the prejudice that teachers have as well, some of which has been mentioned here today. So we think about implicit bias, where they're not even aware of it. And we also recognize that teachers are also dealing with bias and prejudice that enters their classroom via other students and via parents. So what we can do is support teachers who are dealing with that. Our core principle, we have several, but one of our core principles is that we believe that differences of all kinds need to be recognized, and that children and youth need to be taught and shown how to exhibit positive curiosity about that difference instead of distrust. Our core principle, of course, is that every single child deserves to feel welcome, valued, and safe in school. And that means in every classroom, in hallways, bathrooms, cafeterias, gyms, playgrounds, and on the school bus. And of course, we underscore that, and that's been underscored in this presentation today, the fact that every adult in the school is responsible for that. And our experience is that most teachers are well-intentioned. They actually they share that aspiration, but they don't always feel well-equipped to deliver on it. And many of them need and ask us for help to do that. Next slide, please. So our resources are specifically aimed at teachers, and I set this slide up so that if you click on it, you should go to the website, but I'm not sure that's going to work. So the best way to get to this would be go to tolerance.org and then click on these, or rather search for them. Certainly, as a parent, you can offer these resources to teachers as coming from a trusted source. But my main piece of advice is teachers from as allies, and even those who may share some of the same biases that that others have, still want to be good teachers. And not only do they want to be good teachers, they also sometimes need to be made aware of their own biases. And a lot of our materials really encourage teachers to self-reflect, and also have essays and blogs from teachers who have kind of done their self-reflection on paper. We find that that's very, very effective. Obviously, the most effective practices are to teach directly and counter a lot of misinformation, but contact is also very important. And so we would always urge parents to be very involved in school, to be involved with parent groups, to be frequent visitors to teachers, and to become really an active part of the school community, because one of the best ways to dispel fear and misconceptions is to be present as somebody who doesn't embody those fears and misperceptions. I've chosen these resources particularly because they relate to Islamophobia. We recognize, of course, that many Muslim students may also be encountering other issues because of the intersectionality of identity. They may be facing discrimination and bias because of ethnicity, or because of limited English proficiency, or immigration status. We have resources on those things as well. These are all available. They are all free. The Combating Anti-Muslim Bias, what sets this apart for teachers, it's a short article of about 4 pages, is that it has the voices of students, so they can really see the impact of bias on who are just like theirs. And it gives teachers tips for ways to really combat bias, not simply to teach about Islam, but really to deal with bias. I think one of the major fears, as Mark mentioned, is not only that a teacher will overstep his or her bounds in teaching about religion, but also they fear community pressure. They fear those angry parents, the parents who are really very biased and very bigoted, and they don't want to create controversy. So you need to help find common grounds with them and find ways to keep all the students in the classroom safe. Extreme prejudice basically provides context about religious extremism and points out that, and helps teachers put religious extremism into context, pointing out that it is a feature of every religion, or rather that extremists find ways to use virtually any religion to justify their position. Debunking stereotypes about Muslims is an actual lesson plan. is for middle and high school students, and it draws a more, and it's a one-day, it can be done in 1 day or it can be stretched out to 5, but it draws a more complete and nuanced picture of the size and complexity and variety within Islam, with frequent comparisons to other religious groups, so that it helps chip away at the idea that Islam is somehow monolithic. Free to Believe is for lower grades, ideally for grades 3 to 5. It's built around a short scenario called the Nikah and the Headscarf, about a girl on her first day in a new school who also, it's her first day as a young woman wearing hijab. She's very excited about both, and then she encounters an unpleasant situation, and these younger students are encouraged to help be her ally. And that's certainly not all. Our very last item here, Islamophobia Undermines Religious Freedom, we just published last month, and it was in response to literally hundreds of requests that we got from teachers saying, we need resources. We need resources not only to be better informed about Islam, but also we need the strategies and the tools to be fairer, to be open, and to really help parents and the community be more informed as well, and to resist prejudice and resist hate. Our feeling is that teachers are responsible not only for safety and welfare of their children before them, but in many ways for the next generation and for the health of our pluralistic society. And fighting and identifying prejudice at its basis form is a crucial role for teachers, and one that you can be a partner in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maureen. Wonderful resources. I just want to remind everyone that we will summarize where you can find more information about these links and these resources at the end of the webinar, including where you'll be able to find the recording of this webinar on the Islamic Networks Group ING website. I'm going to welcome back Ameena Jandali. She's going to speak a little bit about the specific resources we have to support children at ING. Thanks, Ameena.
Greetings again, and at this point I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our resources to directly support your Muslim child as well as you as a Muslim parent. So one of the exciting new programs that we launched a few months back is the ING Youth Program, where we not only conduct workshops, but we also present a number of resources for youth and their parents. So we have conducted around 10 workshops to date across the country. We have one tomorrow. And these are workshops that are both for youth and their parents. And these are youth generally between the ages of 10 and 18. We've had a few younger, a few older. And we have some sessions that are combined, beginning with asking both parents and youth to talk about some of their shared experiences and responses to bullying. And then we go through how to respond to frequently asked questions about Muslims and their faith. And then we actually allow the youth to go out and on their own practice responding to some of those questions, while we conduct a session with the parents where we're talking about understanding and responding to Islamophobia, knowing their rights as parents, and also for their students, some of the rights that have been discussed today. And then we come back in the afternoon and talk about the importance of having religious literacy as a way of challenging stereotypes and Islamophobia. And we actually then take the kids out to go over some of the resources that we've prepared for them online as well as in their packets, and they come back and actually do a presentation for the parents, who will meanwhile be discussing some of the ways that they can get involved in their children's schools. And so it's a very full day that has a number of activities both for the students, the youth, and for the parents. So if you are, next slide, interested in learning about our youth workshops, you can go to our website, and here's the URL. You can also go to the top button where it says ING Youth Program, and that will kind of take you through all of the different resources. And you can also directly request a workshop by writing to youth@ing.org. We try our best to fulfill any requests for a workshop giving us a lead time, obviously. So that is a resource that is out there. Additionally, we have resources that are online, next slide, that are, again, very rich and include various activities that hopefully will engage your youth, will allow them to turn to ING. For instance, if they have a question, they obviously have access to the answers to our questions, but if they get a question they can't answer, if they have an experience, they can submit that to our youth blog. We have a bullying prevention guide that parents can download, and then of course they have access to ING's online curriculum, which was created specifically for youth. Next slide. So this curriculum actually takes all of our main presentations and puts it into a format that is understandable and easy accessible to youth. So for the topic of getting to know American Muslims and their faith, we have created these online slides that the youth can access. It very clearly and simply makes a clear presentation of all of the items that are included in our major presentation, and they can use these slides either just to boost their own Islamic knowledge, or if they are asked at school, if the teacher's teaching about Islam as part of their social studies curriculum and they're asked to do a little overview, they can also use these. So they're very easy to use. You can actually just, from an LCD projector, use the online slides to project into your classroom. And these include Muslim Women Beyond the Stereotypes, where we go through various notable Muslim women, including heads of states, professors, and other notable women, both in the United States and worldwide. We also go through a timeline of a history of Muslims in America, and then we shine a light on the various Muslim contributions to civilization. We also make available to youth the answers to our frequently asked questions that include both the general about Sharia and ISIS. And so all of these are accessible by youth and parents and are a wonderful resource that can help your Muslim youth feel more literate, so that when they go to school and they're asked questions about their religion, they're able to answer in a way that is more informed. Next. So I'm going to now turn back to Marcia, who will introduce our last speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ameena. I'd now like to introduce to you Dr. Ken Bedell, who is with the Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnership Center at the United States Department of Education, to share with us the department's resources. Ken, if you would unmute your own mic, hopefully we'll be able to hear you. Thanks for joining us.
Hey. Well, Salam alaikum. I'm glad to be part of this, and I'm particularly appreciative of all that's gone ahead. I want to share first that the Department of Education has a particular interest in this webinar for two reasons. First of all, because family engagement is one of the areas that we're particularly focused on as a department, believing that if we're going to have a successful education experience for all students, that it's going to be important that we increase the amount of family engagement with our schools. And on the other side of that we also increase the capacity of our schools to be able to work with families, and particularly with the great diversity of families. And so far the material that's been shared has been so helpful in both of those, with both of those agendas, actually in terms of the family engagement. The second reason that I'm really excited to be here is because ensuring that all students have a healthy and safe environment is a top priority for not only the Department of Education, but for the President of the United States. And with the encouragement of some groups, including ING, and with the support of the White House, last Monday, there was a letter that was sent out to all high school, it was sent out to all superintendents for them to share with their school districts, and to all college and university presidents. It was written on the 31st of December, when Secretary Arne Duncan was still the Secretary of Education, but it was actually sent out on Monday the 4th when Acting Secretary John King had taken over. So both of the secretaries signed the letter showing the real continuity between Arne Duncan and John King, making sure that everyone who's involved in education has the clear sense of the importance of a number of items related to harassment and the safety of students at schools. You can go to the next slide. The letter, which was said, has a pretty straightforward content. It makes it clear that the U.S. government, the Department of Education, is committed to welcoming refugees and to students coming from all backgrounds, and in providing a safe environment for all American students. Secondly, it speaks directly to the fact that harassment of any student cannot be tolerated, and then puts the other side of that, which is also extremely important, that in the efforts to make sure that schools are a safe place, it's equally important to make sure that free expression is not sacrificed. The letter says that every school and college can and must take specific steps, and includes resources to help educators be able to fulfill the actual demands of the letter. I'm going to be interested, we maybe have a couple of minutes for questions here at the end, of ways that people might see that they could actually use this. My thought is that someone could take this to a school board meeting and ask about how this is being implemented, or that it might be used as a discussion starter for parents and families to look at what's happening in the school, or the teachers might use it as a way to begin to talk about what exactly is happening in their school. Because the really important thing is not that we have enforcement of the civil rights laws, important as that is, but that we develop an environment so we don't have to worry about enforcement. We can go on to the next slide. So I want to lift up one of the activities and initiatives that President Obama has in higher education. The issue of harassment and bullying is not just in the grade schools, but parents even of college and university students, and college and university students themselves need to make sure that those institutions are safe and welcoming places. And a program that the President initiated now more than 5 years ago was the President's Interfaith and Community Service Campus Challenge. And there's a website there. You can learn more about the resources. They're saying, let's start by saying that we're going to do everything we can on college campuses to make them safe and welcome places. But there may be times when it's necessary to have an enforcement of the civil rights laws, which promise every American that they will be protected from harassment and bullying. And so at the Department of Education, we actually enforce those civil rights laws. As other speakers have said, this isn't the place to start. The place to start when there is an issue is to work with the teachers and with the school, and even after that to work with the state departments of education. But this website will send you to the civil rights area of the Department of Education, where you can learn about when things just cannot be resolved in any other way, that it is the law of the land that students will be free from harassment. And then on that slide, I've also put down the ways that you can contact our office, the Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnership Center at the Department of Education. If you have questions about this, if there's things that you think that we might do that could be of help to you, and my contact information is at the bottom also. So I just want to again thank Ing and all the people that have presented this day, a tremendous amount of really good information, and look forward to working with many of you in the future. Thank you.
Thanks so very much, Ken, for joining us. I appreciate it, and we all appreciate it very much. And I want to, I now want to come back and say a few things in response to some questions that have been coming through as we've been going along here. And the first one that I want to address is actually a question about where ING affiliates exist in the United States. This is from a parent who says that she has 3 children in schools and she gets a lot of requests to come and talk about Islam in the classroom. ING is all across the United States. Rather than go through place by place in this webinar in order not to extend the time too much beyond what we've promised folks, I just want to let you know that if you'll go to ing.org, our website, and go down to the very bottom of the page, you'll find an area where you can see a map of the United States that shows where all of our affiliates are located. You can also, on the website, at the top, find an affiliate tab where you can literally see the locations and contact people in those local affiliates and find out if they have speakers who can help. They have access to all of the ING materials that you've heard about today. We do only have a few more minutes left, but I do want to get to the couple of questions that are outstanding now. So what I'm going to do is ask all the speakers to mute themselves now, but be prepared to unmute your microphone if you would like to respond to the question that I ask. And please do that one at a time if you're able. So let me start with one question that I hope will be fairly easy to answer. The question is, if my children are bullied in school, which organization should I contact? Should I contact CARE, or should I contact Islamic Networks Group, ING? So if you, Roula, and Maha would like to respond to that question, we'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Maha, would you like to answer first?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, Maha, we can hear you.
Okay, great, yay! So I think that if you're reporting a bullying incident, you should go to CARE. And it really depends on where you're at with the issue. So if you don't know what to do and you're needing ideas for addressing the issue, I think that CARE's the local CARE chapter would be probably the first place to go. And if there isn't a CARE chapter, then you can contact an ING affiliate office or just call the CARE national office. Now, if you've spoken with the teacher, if you've spoken with the principal, and they're willing to have a cultural competency training for their staff, then ING would be happy to do that. I think that CARE also might have that kind of a training. Roula, maybe you can speak to that, but we'd be happy to do educational pieces. Or if the teacher is saying that, I didn't know, I'm really sorry, what resources are available out there that I could use. I mean, that's really what this webinar is about. And then when we, after we edit this webinar and when we release it, you now have access to all of the resources that we just presented. So it really depends on what the teacher is looking for. If she's looking for a live speaker and we have an affiliate locally and we can do a webinar, we'd be happy to do that. A teacher might be just interested in a video, or the principal might be interested in a larger conversation about religion. Tanenbaum would be a good organization for that. So it really depends on what the teacher or the school staff and the principal would be interested in. Mm-hmm. Roula, you want to say something?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Maha. I agree with everything Maha said. I think the main thing for a parent, if you feel like your child's being bullied, is to make sure you reach out to someone. And certainly CARE and our chapters, both our national office and our chapters, handle these types of things. So you could either reach out to your local chapter, or if there isn't a local chapter in your area, you could contact CARE National, and we will be able to connect you to either provide you assistance, but also connect you to information and resources in your local area, so that if there are follow-up cultural competency, et cetera, type things that need to occur, we certainly are connected and can provide that resource to the parents and the students.
Great. Thank you both very much for answering that question. The second question that we have, and the last question that we have actually, is a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to leave it up, and I think there are legal answers to this question as well as pedagogical answers to this question, curricular answers to this question. So I'm going to just open it up. The question is on the issue of the focus on primarily Christian holidays in the school, and in a lot of places a lack of coverage of other faiths' holidays, and you know, sort of what's the way to address that if you're a parent and you see that happening in your school? What are the things that you might want to say or share with an educator or an administrator to address that issue? Thank you.
This is Mark. I can offer one thing. We actually conducted a webinar in partnership with Teaching Tolerance on what we call the December Dilemma, which talks a bit about the imbalance sometimes in covering holidays and the angst that many schools and administrators and parents have, where everything seems to focus towards the end of the year. But we spoke very specifically about the opportunity to incorporate not the celebration, but the exploration and the impact of religion, of holiday traditions throughout the year. So I think that's one aspect. And in terms of the ongoing exploration of days off during the school year, I know that in New York State, at least at the time that I was teaching, there had to be 180 instructional days during the course of the year. And so there is going to be, this is something that has to be an ongoing discovery, an ongoing challenge to figure out how to keep the number of instructional days and still honor the traditions present in our schools.
Thanks very much, Mark. We are now getting a lot of questions, and so I'm going to try to field a few of these. We've only got about 6 more minutes left. There is a question here about speaking to students' rights around religious dress in schools, especially where there are uniform policies, and also students' rights in relationship to leaving school for Friday prayers with parent permission. Roula, I imagine you would be the person to respond to that question. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. So 2 parts. The question about leaving the school for Friday prayer. Students should be permitted to practice their religious beliefs, and Friday prayer may be considered by many to be a requirement of their faith. However, there are some responsibilities that a student not leave school property or not impact their normal school activities in order to do that. So there may be some limited circumstances where one would not be able to leave the school property, but I've seen these situations primarily with older students where they'd like to leave school for Friday prayer, and there are instances where that's something that can be accommodated, but people just need to be mindful of the limitation that school activities, and particularly if there are certain classes that students need to participate in, there may be limitations on the student's ability to leave school grounds during those days or during that time period. As far as school dress, while schools may have uniforms in place, if there are religious reasons for wanting to dress and modify the uniform in a way that accommodates students' religious beliefs, that's something that should be permitted. So, for example, I think this most often happens if there are for example, length requirements, and Muslim female students may want to wear something that's a bit longer. And then, of course, for the hijab, for the headscarf, typically students should be permitted to modify the uniform in a way that satisfies the basic parameters of the uniform, but also accommodates their religious beliefs.
Right, thank you. Very helpful answer. I think now that we've gotten through all of the questions we've been given today, I want to thank everyone. I'm going to turn my camera back on so you can see me. I want to thank everyone for joining us, and also let you know that a recording of this webinar and or parts of this webinar, once it's edited, will appear on the Islamic Networks Group, ing.org website as soon as possible. We'll also be sharing a summary of the links and the contact information for the speakers we've had today with people who have registered for this webinar, so that will be forthcoming as well. And we do hope you'll visit the websites of all of the supporters and participants in this webinar to look further at the resources, familiarize yourself with them, and obviously use them by taking them to educators in your area who are teaching your students. We want to thank each of the speakers and the organizations they represent for being our partners in creating and publicizing this webinar. The link, as I said, to the recording will be available for viewing on our website, and we hope that our partner organizations will likewise direct their constituents and friends to that link. The slides in the recording contain all our contact information also, and we hope that this will be helpful to you as you share the resources with teachers. Thank you again so much for joining us today. Please be in touch with us and the other organizations and let us know how we can support you. We wish you a very peaceful and very productive 2016. Thank you so much and have a great day. Goodbye.